So on that note, I want to thank this panel and thank you for giving us some additional insights about the future directions of where we're heading. And I will take the prerogative now just to make a few comments before we have closure to the day and to the whole workshop over the 2 days. We've heard so many themes that I just want to pick on 5 or 6 to share with you from my vantage point. I've been in the field for almost 50 years since I went and got my master's degree in maternal and child health. And so for me, it has been a really gratifying opportunity to see the tremendous growth and the voices that we're listening to now that were never raised in my earlier career. And so I am very optimistic about where we're heading. I want to acknowledge how much work went into the workshop and the wonderful panelists and moderators that you heard from over the last couple of days, the tremendous, wonderful staff at the National Academy of Medicine led by Rose and then Christy and Kelly, as well as our funders. And I want to acknowledge that when we began this journey, as Dr. Zhao said yesterday, about 2 years ago, we would have never anticipated the tremendous historical moment in which we've had this dialogue over the last 2 days of this workshop. And the historical confluence between the pandemic, the murders of so many community members, and the call to action makes me more optimistic that we're going to be able to push this agenda. So in some ironic ways, the fact that this baby took a little while longer to come to birth has probably contributed to our ability to bring the diverse voices that we have all so well benefited from over the many topics that we've covered. Another theme that I've heard really has to do with the kaleidoscope of these issues. There's so many different complexities, so many different levels, and that depending upon how you turn your kaleidoscope, you see different vantage points and different ways. And for me, over and over again, we heard the importance of putting the woman's voice and her experiences throughout her life course at the corner, in the middle of that kaleidoscope. Another visual that I have is the microscope. So during the panel, we went with our microscope deep into important topics and then wider with our lens, whether the activity is occurring in a particular tribal group, a particular hospital, at the state level, at the funder level. All of these elements within our microscope and kaleidoscope have to be brought together. That brings up this image of stone soup, one of my favorite children's stories, which is that all of us alone cannot really make progress without each other. And while we each may be limited by some of the resources that we have in our own cupboards, coming together and sharing resources really will create this very nourishing, low-fat, healthy, nutritious broth that I think will continue to leverage each other's efforts. It was so wonderful to hear about the interconnections of this necklace of different organizations, different professionals, different individuals coming together and building off that energy in such a positive way. And just a couple of more themes. One is that we really focused on how do we begin to capture what we do know? We know that there are many gaps, but we have the opportunity to build on what we've been capturing. And we need to find different ways with our partners, with funders, our partners with the advocacy community, our partnerships with the community to leverage what we do know and advance this cause. And that brings me to this issue of positive deviance. So long we have really focused on all the negative things that are happening in our community. And yet I admire the strengths of the Black community, the Indigenous community, the community of color, and its ability to survive and thrive and demonstrate the power, the the wisdom, and the courage to be able to move forward and push forward. And so finally, I want to comment on the fact that we have a very important mirror that's happening at this historical moment. I think about the image of Justice and the scale, and oftentimes her eyes are covered with a cloth. And really, I feel that in this century and at this time, that hiding of her eyes has been removed. And there is no doubt in my mind that having the authenticity, the authority from community, and the ability to hold up the mirror to ourselves will be a very important contribution in being able to do the kind of change that we're all striving to achieve. So on that note, I want to share again my gratitude, my humbleness, and also to note to you that we will be sharing the presentations and of this meeting in the next few days. We encourage you to share them widely, and that in the coming months, we will be also putting together a proceedings which will be capturing the essence and the highlights of our meetings together. And these will be published by the National Academy's Press and will be accessible to all through the National Academy Press website. And we will let all of you know when those are available, because you can carry that forward given the richness of this convening. So on that note, I want to thank you again, and the workshop is adjourned.